the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimidRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTimidRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to TalkRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. And now you are in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. You can get in contact with the show several ways. First of all, you can go to Facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can see and hear the program. That's Facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can see and hear the program. You can also, when you do that, there's a like button there. You can hit that. Give us a like, and there's a comment button there also, which you can put your comments in. I'm not going to be able to read all of them because they do come in rapidly, and I do try to write them down so that I could get them in their proper way that you have sent them, but you can do that. You can also get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7mrbobby@gmail.com. The title of this particular program is going to be really mixed subjects, and we're going to have Mr. Fuller address your questions and your Gmails or even whatever comes across the screen that I could pick up rapidly. And then we are going to go into the eighth area of people activity, which is the area of sex. And it is the longest chapter or section in the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, the book that Mr. Fuller has penned. It's about 81 pages long. It's going to be extensive, so we're going to take our time when we get into that, because it is important that you know and understand what it is and understand what to do. Okay, so you have your numbers on hand, and let's pick up where we left off last week. First of all, good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
All righty. Okay, and how are you?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay. We're going to pick up last week because you made a statement last week that actually blew up the phone lines and just blew up. In fact, I was in discussions yesterday about the statement you made about the white male anus being the new vagina, and people are still reverberating about that. But anyway, just to refresh a little bit, Kiana Brown wrote this. She said, can Mr. Fuller go into detail about the black womb vagina being extinct and the black female being directly or indirectly being told that the white female is the Holy Grail?
Yes, the white supremacists are all over the place, all over the world. I mean, South Africa, the area that is called that, Uganda, wherever you find dark-skinned people, you find the white supremacists are going all out. They have the pedal to the metal. They are going full steam ahead, almost in a frenzy, almost going, like in a panic. That hey, you people, your sexuality, you need to examine it. It needs to be altered greatly. It's pretty ragged as it is, but you really need to make some alterations. That will actually have a profound effect on you people's development. You people need to be developed. You need to move to a higher plane than where you are in all areas of activity, and certainly in the area of sex. Uh-huh. And then when you look at what they're talking about, they are saying, well, what are you talking about? Say, well, your sexuality is too limited. I mean, and therefore your mind is limited. You need to expand what you're doing. I mean, it's always been messed up because we help you mess it up. But I mean, you're not improving any. You're on hold. You're static. You need to be moving. Well, sir, ma'am, moving in what direction? Well, you need to explore. That's what you need to do. You people, you don't have an explorative mind. You don't want to expand. You don't want to change. I mean, you're just stuck where you are. That's basically what they're saying. And then when you ask for details, then they're all over the place. Flexor sex, pretzel sex, different types of varieties of sex. And you say, well, what is all of this supposed to mean? Well, you're improving yourselves. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, we're having floods, we're having housing problems, and we never did straighten out the school situation, and the water is a mess all over the world.
Yes.
We're not getting anything from that. I mean, poison water, we're having to go farther and farther just to get decent water. You got lead pipes that are still around that needs to be pulled up out of the ground. Hey, we don't have time for that foolishness. Now, you black people got to get it together. So what you need to do is study more about your sexuality and get that straight first. And we will help you. And this is basically what they're saying. Now, I'll let them speak for themselves, because all you have to do is just turn on television programs and listen to discussions, and all over the colleges, I mean, march with us and all like that. I mean, if you straighten out your sexuality, that will go a long ways toward making you a more spiritual person, a healthier person in your mind and in your bodies. And you would just be better all the way around if you get your sexual thing straightened out, because you people are a sexual mess. You always have been. But we're going to straighten that out, and then we can straighten out the other things, the housing and all like that. We can save that till later. Jobs and things like that, we can save that till later. But you got to get on this get your sexuality straightened out. But a question is raised, straighten it out by doing what? And now, like I said before, listen to them do the talking.
Okay.
But the main thing the code says you do, ask for details when they start talking about sexual freedom. When white people in this day and time, under the system of white supremacy, start talking about more and more sexual freedom for non-white people, listen to the details and ask 100 or 200 or 300 questions about details. Just the broad generalizations, that's what got a lot of people confused and got all these arguments going. Tell them to stop generalizing. They demonstrate to us exactly what you're talking about that we need to be doing, that would be an improvement over what everybody has been doing.
Okay.
Particularly black people.
Yes.
Which you've been calling us prostitutes, you've been calling us this, you've been saying we're sexually loose and all like that. Well, now, with all these modern ideas that you have about our sexuality, all of these, whole new dictionaries of improvements, because that's what you're calling it, over our sexuality as it has been, which has been a mess. You ain't even got the male-female thing straight yet. But see, with all these improvements now, ask for details, folks. Please do that when you go to these meetings and whatnot. Say, give us the details. Give us a demonstration of what you're talking about. That would be a great improvement, and show us exactly how it would improve us.
Okay.
We will become are much better people than what we are.
Okay. Now, on last week's program, it ended when you made the statement that the white male anus is the new vagina, or something to that effect. Can you go into detail explaining that?
Well, they're telling black males that what you don't want to be fooling around with those black females. I mean, fooling around with those old-fashioned vaginas and whatnot. That's old-fashioned. I mean, get up to date, boy. You know, maybe you should try an anus rather than a vagina to put your phallus in. All right? You people don't ever know what to do with your sexuality unless we tell you. So, you know, and, you know, if you're left on your own, I mean, you're just all over the place. I mean, you've always been a very loose people. Everybody knows that, and we have helped make you that, but we want to straighten you out now. We want to help you to get your sexuality straight. You people need to really think seriously about where your sexuality is going. So we're going to help you, and we're going to parade you in the streets and show you the way to go. I mean, we have always shown you the way to go in everything, and sexuality is very important. So, maybe you should try the white male anus or the new black vagina. Try that on for size, boy.
Wow.
Line up.
Wow.
All you boys get in line, in particular all you collegiate types, all you people who are in the ministry and whatnot, you know, whatever your religion has been and told you before, I mean, hey, put that, you know, hey, I mean, you've been misinterpreting all that. I mean, you know, you really got to, you know, so, hey, you know, you're talking about anuses here. So, if you want quality anuses, maybe, you know, usually everybody, you know, says that white is right, so, maybe the white male anus should be the way that you go. And at least you won't be having babies and all this kind of stuff all over the place and begging people to take care of them. And you get in the habit of that, then it might be a better world.
Wow.
Get on board, boy. Keep up.
Okay.
You know, you people always want to know for something new. I'm giving you something new.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That's what it seems that the white supremacists are saying.
Okay.
Now, if I got it all incorrect, somebody can straighten me out.
Okay.
This is a very important subject.
All righty. All right. Now let's move on. Before we go on, thank you, Kenny Ray, and Larry Williams, and Jola Carter. Thank you for leaving your comments on Facebook.com/Talktainment. We really appreciate that. Let me do this right now because we have a question on the Gmail coming up here. Talktainmentradio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here are several that I want to share with you. Let's do this one. How about one of my favorites, again, New Money, and At the Table, and Senior Agenda. Now, all these shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to TalkTainmentRadio.com, click on Programs for the scheduled times, and you can go from there. Talktainment Radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. I'm Mr. Bobby, the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And again, you can get in contact with the show by going to Facebook.com/Talktainment. Hit the like button, leave a comment. 1-877-932-9766 the number you can call, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, MrBobby@gmail.com, and I will try to get to many questions as I can. Let's see, Marino Watts, I will try to write that down. But anyway, let's do this one. Mr. Fuller, this comes from Mordecai. Let's see here. He says, Mr. Fuller gives outstanding information based on a very simplistic view of the world using logic. I can't help but notice everything he says lines up with the Bible. My question is, does Mr. Fuller recognize that everything he says is in conjunction with the scriptures? And does he understand that Negroes scattered to the four corners of the earth are Israel, and these white people that claim to be Jews of the Bible actually stole our true identity while we were in chains? Does he recognize that Negroes are fulfilling the curses in the book of Deuteronomy 28 chapter in particular, and must walk out of these curses until the Messiah delivers us? And lastly, does he understand that his code of ethics in dealing with white supremacy is actually simply following God's commandments according to the Holy Bible? Thank you. Yah bless both of you, and Yah bless Israel. Mr. Fuller?
Well, in answer to the question, he's asking me about my familiarity with the Bible, and I will say, no, I am a grand listener when anybody starts talking about the Bible, what we call the Holy Bible, King James Version, or whatever other versions they are, because I go into the listening mode, because I hear people, I've been in churches, many churches and whatnot, and I just listen. I don't argue, I don't fuss, I don't offer suggestions. I just listen, because there's a lot in the Bible from what they tell me. I have not read very much of the Bible that I remember. I have heard a lot of sermons read from the Bible, many sermons, and many of the people who have read the Bible, who call themselves Bible experts and scholars, I listen to them. But also in listening to them, I have noticed down through the decades that many of them disagree about what every page in the Bible means and what it doesn't mean. And sometimes there are great arguments back and forth. So what do? In a compensatory way, I listen to the arguments, all sides of all the arguments, and I try to make some sense out of what I hear. And that's what I do. Now, I couldn't be criticized for doing that, but that's just my approach, because, a lot of times I wind up confused, a lot of times I don't. A lot of times I learn something that I think that I need to know and whatnot. But for the most part, I'm not a Bible scholar at all, for the most part.
Okay.
I haven't spent a lot of time reading the Bible, but I have listened to a lot of sermons from people who say that they are experts on everything in the Bible.
Okay. All righty. All right, that take care of that there, Mordecai. Let's do this. Sharnice Woods, thank you for your comment. Victor, I will get to your question. This comes from the Gmail. But here comes one off of the line, Mr. Fuller, from Marina Watts, dealing with depression. Let me see if I can read it here. It says, good morning, Mr. Fuller. Have you ever dealt with depression personally? If so, how did you handle it? If not, how would you recommend dealing with depression?
Oh, I don't even recognize what that might mean. In my way of thinking, what they call depression, whatever that means, I've never talked to a psychiatrist in depth about, a psychologist or someone who studies the mind, about what depression really is and what it isn't. I just say that, being back from the country, you might say, back on a backcountry road, you just say, well, hey, I'm feeling down in the dumps. I mean, that's what we called it. And, so maybe if I get up and do something constructive, I might not feel down in the dumps. So then I started looking for something constructive to do. That's the way I guess people, down on the farm usually handled it. They didn't know anything about, a psychiatrist's couch and all like that.
Mm-hmm.
They just say, hey, and some musicians back in the old days called it what? The blues. Hey, I'm feeling down. I don't feel like I just don't feel like I'm worth much. I don't feel like things going on around me, are happening the way that they should happen. So maybe I should just get up and make something happen the way it should happen. Maybe that will cure it.
Yes.
And usually, in the old country way, just get out there and plant some corn and load up that wagon and go to town and sell some cabbages and apricots and whatever you got, and you get to feel a little better.
Okay.
Got a good workout, and you made a little money maybe. So, that got you out of the dumps.
Okay.
Get up and do something that might be of constructive value.
Yes,
and
yes.
that's basically what I write about. Hey, everything is about doing and saying. So if something is going on that puts you in what you call a blue situation or down in the dumps or depression or whatever you want to call it, then look around and say, now, can I solve a problem or two? Is there any problem I can solve? What's the best way to go about solving a problem? Because everything, in my way of thinking, and it could be incorrect, is about problem solving. That's what we're here for.
Yes, sir.
Get in that problem solving mind. And if you say, well, I can't come up with any ideas to solve no problems, well then, start talking to somebody that can probably give you some ideas. Start reading some books.
Okay. Alrighty. Remember, you can go to facebook.com/Talktainment where you can see and hear the program. Alrighty. Let's do this one. This comes from the Gmails. Victor Palmer wrote this. Can you ask Mr. Fuller, when you are using your emotions to lead you to logic, what actually needs to be happening while you are depersonalizing the issue? Have you said that it is you said it is not about personalities, it is about the constructive results. How do you depersonalize the issues without being distracted by personalities?
Oh, well, I've talked about this before. There's 4 things in the textbook. I always say, when you kind of get lost, when you're interacting with people, I guess that's what the call is talking about. When you interact with other people, that's what personalities are about. You just say, go to the want column. You might say WANT. Those 4 things. What do you want to do? Or you might modify it a little bit and say, what do you want me to do? That's when you're talking to someone. Everybody wants to do something. Or they want you to do something when you're around them. These are the 4 questions. It might be, for example, what do you want me to do? And then, the second question, why do you want me to do it? See, somebody might want you to do something. Well, the next question is, okay, the first question, what do you want me to do? And then the next logical question is, why do you want me to do it? And then the third question, how do you plan for me to do it? All right? How do you plan for me to do what you want me to do? And then the fourth question, what do you expect the constructive result to be? In other words, after I do all this stuff that you want me to do, what's going to be the constructive result? And underline the word constructive.
Okay.
Now, those 4 questions apply to every situation, to everyone on the planet at this very moment, wherever they happen to be, in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a flood, somewhere in the desert, or somewhere on a farm, or somewhere in an office building, or in a warehouse, just, normally at work, sitting at a computer. What do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? Flying an airplane, whatever it is. Those questions apply to every, not only person, they apply to every creature. A couple of birds sitting on a limb, that's really what they're saying to each other. What do you want me to do? or the bird is talking to him or herself, saying, what is it that I want to do?
Uh-huh.
Well, I will fly from this limb to the top of that building over there and take a look around and see what's up there, which you see birds do. The reason that bird flew from that limb, and I look out the window all the time, just to remember things like that, simple things. Why did that bird fly from that rail over there to the top of the building 3 blocks away? You watch it do that. The bird knew why it did it. It wanted to do it. That's why the bird did it. It's the same with people all day long. All people, all creatures, frogs, birds, ants, they want to do something.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, what is the constructive result after they do everything that they do?
All righty. Shirley Woods says, hello, I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Bob and Talk to Him at Radio for having the platform for Mr. Fuller to share with us. I want to give a special thanks to Mr. Fuller. He has changed the way many people view life, including the late Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and I'm extremely, extremely grateful for his contributions to the world by advocating for a system of justice. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. That is beautiful that that we can now do that. And Mario wanted to say thank you, Mr. Fuller, for answering his questions as I go through this to get to select the emails that the or Gmails that the staff has put it up. George, we are going to get to the straw man. Let me see if I can get this one up here in the remaining time before the commercials. Let's see here. Let's do this. He says, Mr. Fuller, do you believe that we as black people should move in silence as opposed to publicly making our strategy public? By the way, I will most definitely purchase a copy of your book and keep speaking the truth. So the question is, do you believe that we as black people should move in silence as opposed to publicly making our strategy public?
No. One thing, if we're talking about in silence, you're talking about secrecy. No. The answer is no. One thing, in the system of white supremacy, the victims of white supremacy, the prisoners of war, which is what we are, there's no way to keep these prison secrets. I mean, somehow it all gets out. And then another thing is, number 2, you don't have any need for them. The white supremacists need secrets. They need a lot of them because they are masters of deception.
Yes.
They are out trying to fool people. All we need to do is just reveal the truth. Reveal the truth about everything, particularly about them and our interactions with them. I mean, and let it go from there. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Always, everything about codification is about the revealing of truth, but you do it in such a manner that it helps to produce a product called what? Called justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, secrets, no, we don't really need them because for one thing, and then another thing, if we did, we couldn't keep them anyway. I used to have an old saying, I mean, I hear the sound coming.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's music. Okay, you got it right. Anyway, talk to him at radio.com, Pennsylvania Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And we are having various topics on today's show. Mr. Fuller is answering your questions, your Gmails, your concerns, and I'm going to read some of them off the air. Oz Rahman, I will, hopefully I'll have a chance to get to your question. If I don't, then you need to resend it, but right now it's on the board. But we got to go to this one first. Listen, you can view us by going to facebook.com/talktainment. You can also, and then when you go there, you can hit the like button, and then as Oz Rahman did, you can leave a message there and also hit that like button. You can also call 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me, as Greg Thomas has done. And let's get to his question. He says, Mr. Fuller, speaking of Hurricane Harvey, he said, this is a man-made hurricane. They never moved this slow. They used HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, to cause it to form right before it landed, because it was only a tropical depression just off the shore, then Category 4, just like that. No way. The ellipses and the ones that are coming up in 2023 and 2024 send special ancestral energies to black people, because it was the 400-year mirror for the slavery, when slavery started in 1619. Houston and New Orleans are the two main black cities that are reachable with Atlantic hurricanes. They are going to abduct us and steal organs for melanin. They are looking for whoever is reincarnating as one of our heroes, like Malcolm, Marcus, DeSaltis, Tubman, Vesey, Prosser, etc., just like the agents were looking for Neo in the movie The Matrix. They know that they're going to lose, but they get more time when they hinder the ancestors from returning during these ellipsis windows. Look at the distractions. It's never anything but extracting our energies or misdirecting it. Never. Everything else is just something to make whites think that they are important. They are after us and no one else. Whites don't matter, because they are either soulless or have just an embryonic soul. Their melanin is sulfur-based, just like the devil, which is why they smell when they get wet. These are melanin wars, and now they are using weather wars and cyber wars to get it done. All countries are involved except maybe Iran, North Korea, and Cuba, which, by the way, do not have Rothschild central banks yet. There are non-humans in charge, and all these governments are doing what they told us to appease them. Dick Gregory knew all of this, just like Prodigy from Mobb Deep. And I guess in the use of holograms. Mr. Fuller, your response?
Well, that comes under VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. The person who is saying these things, they know more about it than I do, I guess. So I just let it be what it is. People can listen to it and evaluate it for what it is, because whomever is saying it, if it's a non-white person saying it, they are entitled to say those things and come to those conclusions. And if they put it out there for other people to think about and to evaluate, well, so be it, because it has to do with color. Anything that has to do with color, a victim of white supremacy, Victims Guaranteed Qualification, is qualified to say anything about his or her victimization.
Yes.
Thing associated with it. So I say, you listen to those things who were said. That's what I'm telling the audience here, worldwide. Just listen to those things and see what you think.
Now, I have personally looked at the information concerning the HAARP program. That is the HAARP program. I think there's a base in Alaska, and I was surprised at the things that they were able to do with that in regard to the to weather being changed, or weather patterns being changed. So this person who wrote this may have some validity with that. For example, the earthquake bombed out in Haiti to make it look like that it was an earthquake, but on the other side, nothing happened to the Dominican Republic. It was something to see that. Or the use of chemtrails, those things flying in the air, dropping chemicals or seeding the air and causing all kind of problems. I'm aware that some of this stuff, could be and possibly, is happening. So we'll have to see about that. what he has to say about that. Thanks to Sean Punch and Jolie Carter again, VGQ, he says. Okay, we can do that. As we move on, Mr. Fuller, as I find another Gmail that comes up, anything that stood out to you this week in your reading of newspapers or what was in the news?
Well, I'll just kind of continue what I said last week. One of the main things is we're having these storms now, and I'm saying, how should the individual black person, non-white person, anywhere on the planet, react to catastrophes when it seems that not only non-white people, but white people are suffering also? When you see that happening, earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes, floods, forest fires, well, according to the code, compensatory code, that when these things happen, what you do is try to help anybody who happens to be around you, just the people right in front of you, the people who you see standing next to you, if you're trapped in an elevator or whatever, that person, whether the person is white or non-white, and that person begins to suffer or begins to have a misfortune because of what is going on, earthquake, or tornado, flood, fires, help the person that's right next to you that's in need of help. That's the kind of world we want. That's the kind of people we want to be in the future. And it could be a test of everybody, white and non-white. We don't know. I don't know. So I don't, so the compensatory way is, since I don't know, I do the next best thing with my lack of knowledge. I try to use what I have to do the best thing under the circumstances that can be done. Now, there are people who say, well, they don't agree with that. If they see a white person, on top of a car and they're screaming for help, well, no better for them. They should have treated people right and all like that. So you just keep on driving. Well, it comes down to a question of, suppose you're on top of that car. All right? Think about that. Now, help white people, help black people sometimes to get off of rooftops and whatnot. You say, yeah, but they caused the black people to be on the rooftops in the first place. Could be. But here again, I'm saying, it could be that what created all of us could be testing all of us in the Creator's own mysterious ways, as they say. All right? So I'm saying, in what you call natural disasters, help the person that you can help. You were placed where you were placed at a particular time in a particular place, just like we were all born at a particular time in a particular place.
Yes.
Sometimes right where you are. See, because you could be saying, a message could be sent. Messages are sent by whatever created all of us, all of the time. That's a logical conclusion to come to. And sometimes, the message is, okay, let's see what you will do in circumstances where you have total control and how you will act under these circumstances. And what is in your mind about what to do and what not to do. So the code says we're supposed to be not only just trying to get rid of the system of white supremacy, a very evil system, but we're trying to replace it with what? Something better. And what would that something better be? Justice. And what is justice? Two things. Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's number one. And guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. So in a flood or a fire or earthquake, etc., whatnot, you're going down some stairs, there's you're a black person, there's a white woman who is stuck, trying to get down those stairs, and she's in a wheelchair, and you see where you can give that wheelchair a little boost, and get her out of that building before it falls down, do it, folks. Do it. Do it.
Okay.
And straighten out any argument you might have with her later, even though you just had an argument with her just, 2 hours before the earthquake hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she might have been calling you names. I mean, talking about shaking her cane at you from that wheelchair, saying, you people are just ruining the neighborhood. All right? And the earthquake 2 hours later hits. I'm giving an example now.
I hear you.
And there she is, stuck, and you can race right past her. No, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Grab the back of that wheelchair and push her out of harm's way and whatnot, and then, you can talk about that little argument you all had before.
All right.
Later on.
Okay. TalkTimeAtRadio.com. We go where you go and simply download the TalkTimeAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And we're having a potpourri of different subjects as Mr. Fuller will answer your questions. You can get in contact with the show by going to Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can also call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Before we move on, Mr. Fuller, I've had a lot of people this week ask about your book, so this is the time that we've set aside for you to talk about your book for a few moments. Go ahead, please.
Yes, you can get the book by going to simply producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a method for ordering. And the book is basically it's directed toward the individual victims of racism. If you don't consider yourself a victim of racism, meaning white supremacy, then the book does not apply to you. So everything in there is supposed to help a person who considers him or herself to be a victim of the system of white supremacy, which is racism. And it's directed not specifically to organizations, even though people who are in organizations can use it, and I do advise them to use it. In particular, all its students in a classroom. Take the book right along with you to your classroom, to your college courses and all like that. And turn to any page and maybe pick out something that's in the book and ask to discuss it. And right there in the classroom, because we're supposed to be doing what? The book is designed to help the individual non-white person to do what? 2 words: solve problems.
Solve problems.
Because the theory is, the logic is, if you solve the problem of each individual person, you will solve the problems of all persons.
Yes, sir.
And if you apply that all over the planet, because it is a planetary problem, then we can wrap this thing up in record time. And that's why I wrote the book, because I'm trying to fast forward everything. Solve all of the world's problems as far as this race problem is concerned, and do it overnight through each individual thinking, speaking, and acting a certain way according to a code each and every day from here on. From this moment on.
From this moment on, okay. Special thanks again to Kenny Ray, Larry Williams, Jola Carter, Sean Punch, Chenise Woods, I believe, Tariq in New York, and Victor Palmer. Thank you for chiming in. Oh, yeah, and Marino Watts. Thank you for chiming in on the Facebook.com/Talktainment line. Thank you so much. That is coming up really, really good. From the Gmails, Mr. Fuller, let's see here. Yatora wrote this. Mr. Fuller, I have 2 questions. Number 1, I wanted to hear your logic on why you think they have haven't gotten rid of us completely. And then number 2, over the years of talking with people, etc., have you found, Mr. Fuller, any tactics that work for getting someone who this is completely new to listen or to understand. How do you, Mr. Fuller, introduce this to people? I just wanted to spread this to as many people as I possibly can and want to develop a guaranteed method that works for getting people to start thinking. Are there certain questions that you would ask people that work?
Yes, and I've discussed them in previous programs, and it's also in the textbook, and also this morning. Earlier, I said what? 4 questions that would apply to anybody at any time, anywhere. And what were those questions, in case you forgot them? What do you want to do? Everybody wants to do something. From the minute you get up in the morning, in the evening, or midnight, or whatever it is, anytime you're breathing, I mean, even if you're in a hospital bed, you want to do something. I mean, you want to hit that button and call the nurse. I mean, because you need to be turned over, because you can't turn over yourself. Okay? And we will, eventually, if we stay here long enough, we'll all be in that kind of condition. We need to keep that in mind, too. But what do you want to do? Every creature wants to do something. Every bird, every ant, every creature. So you can always start a discussion that way. What do you want to do? Because everybody wants to do something. There's no such thing as a person that doesn't want to do something. All right? You want to do something, just get up out of this chair and walk across the room and sit in the other chair. Why? Why do you want to do it? That's the second question. Because this chair is near the window, and it's a more comfortable chair. And I want to look out the window. In that other chair across the room, I couldn't look out the window. So what I wanted to do was get up out of this chair and walk over across the room to the other chair and sit in that chair. And the reason I wanted to do it was to look out the window. And then you can follow up that question. Well, why do you want to look out the window? Because I see some things going on out there, and I thought I'd check to see what's going on. Looks like somebody's over there playing soccer. All right? So I'll look at the soccer game from this window. Oh, okay. So, you plan to do it, then you did it. So you got that done. Mm-hmm. All right? Now, what do you expect a constructive result to be? That's the 4th question. And see, even without talking about race, which you shouldn't talk about until somebody else brings it up, all right? You can start off talking about anything. But if you're non-white and you're on this planet, most likely, directly, indirectly, you're going to be touching on the race issue somewhere in that conversation if you talk long enough, because there's no way to avoid it. Now, you can avoid it. I mean, but you will still be talking about it by avoiding it. Yes. Because you'll be talking about solving a problem. And if you're a black person, particularly, well, I'll say anywhere in the world, if you are somewhat aware that you have a problem, and everybody has problems, and you're black, and you're on this planet, your problem is going to be attached to the system of white supremacy, one way or another.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. From the Facebook.com/Talktainment line, this is from, let me see if I can get it right, Odelbola Omo Oye says, good morning and thanks for providing a platform for victims of racism. I have realized that the more codified I become, the more I am attacked by other non-white people, especially in the so-called, quote, conscious community. Mr. Fuller, is that a normal thing?
To be attacked by non-white people?
Yes, what this person has wrote, yes.
When you talk about racism?
Yeah, for victims of racism, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that goes with the territory. Expect that. But how do you handle it? See, it always comes down to just like I said.
Asking the question, yeah.
Talk to the person about what the person wants to talk about. Don't force a conversation on anybody about race. Never do that. Just listen to the person and say, what is it you want to talk about? What's on your mind? See, you already have what's on your mind. Find out what's on the other person's mind. And then listen to the person talk.
Or in this case, why are they attacking this person?
Well, for one thing, nobody should be attacking you if you're not saying anything. And you don't say anything until you find out what the other person wants to talk about.
But he was saying
people are usually very comfortable talking about what they want to talk about.
Yes, but this person was saying the more codified I become, the more I am attacked by other non-white people. The more codified that this person.
You look here again. You look at the details of what do you mean by attack. If they're attacking something that you are doing, then you just look at what you're doing and ask questions. Well, why are you attacking me for what I'm doing?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Yeah.
Right, and you always start with a question.
Yeah.
Ask if the person is criticizing what you are doing. Look at what you are doing, and then ask the person who is making the criticism, why are you criticizing what I am doing?
Mm-hmm.
All right? If you're doing something, if you're peeling an onion, and the person is criticizing you, you're peeling an onion. That's what you're doing. So you're saying, I'm peeling an onion. And the person says, yeah, and I'm going to criticize you for peeling that onion. And you say, well, why are you criticizing me for peeling the onion? See, go into the question mode. Find out what's on the other person's mind, all right? And let the person tell you in detail why they are making the criticism. Then you ask the next logical question. Okay, if you think I should not be peeling this onion, what is it you think I should be doing?
Or if I don't attend church, or if I do attend church.
See, it depends on what the subject is.
Okay.
It says, why don't you attend church? Okay. Well, depends on how you want to answer that, but I have an example in the code book of how I answer that about attending church. Since that has been brought up, this was just brought up just now in this discussion, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, how does Neely Fuller, according to the code, answer the question? Fuller, do you go to church? That's the question.
Okay.
All right. Looks like I'm going to have to come back and answer that question.
Hey, it looks like, yeah, because we're almost at the end of it. And also, in that same vein, looking at that question, or why don't you believe in their God? I'm just repeating what...
See, just give me the question, and I would just say, hey, when people ask me, do you believe in God? I say, only God knows, and only God is qualified to say. Now, what am I implying? That if the person who's asking me this question believes in God, that person can ask God if Neely Fuller believes in God.
Oh, okay.
Get your answer straight then.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? But you got to believe in God yourself in order to ask God that question.
Or why should you be criticized if you don't believe in their God?
Oh, well, it depends on what they mean by their God.
Okay.
You got to have a long...
You make them explain what they're talking about.
You just keep asking questions.
I see.
You don't start an argument.
Right. Okay.
There should never be an argument between non-white people on this planet.
Okay. All right. Anyway, when you hear the music, you know what that means. TalkToMitRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and that's radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept, heard exclusively on TalkToMitRadio.com.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimidRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty, my director said go, so I'm going to go. For those of you who are looking using facebook.com/talktainment, I get all kind of signals, and so my man gave me the word, so that's why you see me looking that way sometime. Anyway, here we go. TalkTainmentRadio.com, we go where you go on the world's greatest radio, and now you are in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. Yes, our new toy, Facebook.com//talktainment. That's right. That's how you can see and hear the program. You can also hit the like button, leave a comment, and I will try to read them as much as I possibly can. So far, it seems to be going okay, but this is live radio, so you never know. But anyway, that's how you do that. Also, 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I'm trying to get through those. I have a ton of those, so we're just trying to work those off. This show is basically a show that's dealing with a lot of backed up questions and answers that Mr. Fuller, will give through the answer to your question. But next week, we plan on going into the eighth area of people activity, which is the area of sex. And what I would like for you to do, if you haven't already purchased the book, you need to purchase the book. I would strongly do that because we are going to be in this section for quite a while, and we're going to take our time going through to that section. And I highly recommend that you read the first three pages so that we can start our discussion on sex, because we want to be clear on discussing it and eliminate any type of confusion in this system of racism, white supremacy. All right, with that being said, we will take your phone calls. Gregory Dixon, thank you for your kind words, and thank you for the fact that you say that you are learning so much from Mr. Fuller. That's one of the goals, constructive learning. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to the Gmails, and this comes from Jason Blunt. He says this, Mr. Fuller, why do you think racism, white supremacy is smart?
The white supremacists are smart?
He says, why do you think racism, white supremacy is smart?
Oh, the system itself is not a smart system, but you have to be smart in order to practice the system. It's not a wise system, I might say, if you're just talking about the system itself. But I'm saying what I say, I don't remember recalling that racism is smart. I said that the people who practice racism are smarter than their victims. Now, that goes without saying, but needs to be said, and needs to be said in all kinds of ways that people can understand it, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. And when I say that, what I mean is, if someone is mistreating me, and they're smart enough to keep doing it, it just simply means if I don't want to be mistreated, I don't want to. This is not anything that I want. I didn't sign on for this arrangement, but I am constantly being mistreated by a mistreater, and I don't know how to stop the mistreatment. The person who is doing the mistreating is smarter than me when it comes to mistreating me. That's logical. That's in your face. That's mathematics. a smart person is just smart enough to do what he or she wants to do.
Yes.
That's what smart means. It doesn't mean good. It doesn't mean better. It doesn't mean wise. It just means you are able to do what you want to do. And if you're mistreating someone, the person who is being mistreated doesn't know how to stop you. You are smarter than the person who you are mistreating.
Yes.
That's just the way that goes.
Yes, sir.
There's no way around that. Now, that doesn't say that the person can't get smart, because that's what the person is going to have to do if the mistreatment continues.
Yes.
They're going to have to become smarter than the person who is doing the mistreating. Otherwise, they will be mistreated forever.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot remain what we might call dumb or ignorant. That's the correct word, ignorant. Ignorant just means not knowing how to do what needs to be done.
Yes.
All right, that's what ignorance is. You don't know how to do what you're trying to do or what you want to do. You're ignorant. Everybody is ignorant about many things. All right? Everybody on the planet, even the smartest person, is ignorant about what's going on the other side of the universe. Completely ignorant. Equally ignorant with all the other people that they call ignorant when it comes to knowing how many specks of dust are on the planet Jupiter. Now, is there anybody smart enough to know exactly the number of specks of dust that's on the planet of Jupiter? I think that even the smartest person on the planet couldn't answer that question with any degree of conviction, with any degree of certainty. I don't think so. And I think that any scientist that you would ask that would say, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yes.
The scientists would say, the greatest scientists in the world would say, I can't tell you how many specks of dust are on the planet Jupiter at this very minute, or any minute that you name. I mean, on the exact minute in 1921, at 2:30 in October, the 21st. I mean, how many specks of dust were on the planet Jupiter at that precise moment? No one.
No one. Yeah.
I don't think would even venture to answer that question except to say, I don't know. All right? So everybody on the planet can say that we are ignorant about millions of things.
Right, right.
But any person who is able to keep mistreating you and you don't know how to stop the mistreatment, it means that person is smarter when it comes to mistreating you. And that's what the white supremacists are doing to the non-white people of this planet.
Okay.
They are saying, we are smarter than you dumb black people. Why are we smarter than you? Because we can do anything that we want to with you black people, and you don't know what to do about it. You're scratching your heads and having parades and all like that, trying to figure out how I do what I do, and you can't stop any of it without my permission or without my deciding that I'm going to stop it. And so that makes me smarter than you, boy. I mean, and that's not magic. That's just paying attention to how you get things done.
How you get things done. Okay.
Yes, I know how to practice white supremacy. You people who are victims of it don't know how to stop me. And one of the main reasons is you don't spend any time studying me. You spend a lot of time studying each other. Now, if the white supremacists say that, they'll be telling the truth.
They'll be telling
because
the truth.
that is the truth.
Yeah.
Black people, if we tell the truth about ourselves, we watch other black people more than we watch any bird, any bee, any grain of sand, the weather, anything. We pay attention to what other black people are doing. All right? And considering our condition worldwide, you can't learn very much from doing that.
Okay.
We need to study what the white supremacists do.
All right.
Why? Because they do a whole lot
Okay.
more than than what all the black people put together do.
Yeah. Let me interject this right here. Apparently, we're having trouble with the phone line. Okay. For those of you who are trying to get in, I apologize. We are having problems with the phone line. So you're going to have to leave your comments on the facebook.com/Talktainment site, which you can do. Leave your comment there as Jola Carter did, simply by saying, I have never heard someone other than Neely Fuller Jr. use logic at such a high level of understanding. That was a plug for facebook.com/Talktainment. So the 1-877-932-9766 number you can't get right now. We're working on that. But you can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com, and I will put your question or have your question put in rotation. Let's see here. Let's do this. Let's see here. Mr. Fuller, who is this? This is Mr. Baptiste. He wrote this. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I recently responded to a comment made by a classmate on her post to social media about a suspected white supremacist graduating from an Ivy League college and having the last name of Fuentes. I told her that the classification matters and not last names in the system of white supremacy.
There are three classifications according to the code of people racially on the entire planet: white, non-white, and white supremacists. And you have to be first in order to be a white supremacist. Now, that doesn't say that all white people are white supremacists, but all white supremacists are white. All right? Now, everybody else, black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, they are in the non-white category. But black is basic because everybody says that everybody, evolved from people who were of darker hue. Now that could be true, could be false, I don't know. But it seems that way. It seems that way because there are people of color that dominate as far as color and shades of color on the planet. When you start talking about color classifications, they are the greatest color classifications. People of color. People that white people say of color. People who have color. They are colored people. And then they say there is a singularity called white. So you say white people, non-white people, and white supremacists. But you have to first of all be classified as white and function as white in order to be a white supremacist. Those are the three classifications.
Okay.
Now, that's according to what I have written. Now, if you look at different places where they take racial classifications by what they call a census, you will find all kinds of variations from what I've been told. Like right now in the Northwestern Hemisphere, is how many? It's 21 classifications according to race. And I say that is a classification system that makes no sense at all. And I stick by that. If you look at them, there's one classification called some other race. Now, classification. But if you look around for a person that fits that description, what would you be looking at? You walk down the sidewalk and you're looking for a person of some other race. What would you be looking for? Exactly what would that person look like? Because you're talking about color here. What color is some other race? That's why I say when you include that among a whole lot of others, Pacific Islander. What color is Pacific Islander? Whom are you talking about? I mean, if a person from a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned person from Finland happens to spend a weekend in Guam, which is in the Pacific Ocean, and it's an island, then is that person now no longer a white person? That person is now the color of a Pacific Islander? And what color is a Pacific Islander?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's the question.
Okay.
Give me the color. I mean, what color are you talking about? Is it green? Is it purple? What are we talking about?
Okay. All righty. Let's do this before it goes off the screen. It says, this comes from Judah Cambridge. I'll do this for Judah. If you want to ask me a question, just Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and then I'll answer that question for you, or try to anyway. Anyway, he says, Mr. Fuller, I have one suggestion for you, and that is, I would just like for you, Mr. Fuller, to say how you are really doing or feeling, instead of saying that I am still learning all the time, because, and then it went off the screen. I can't get the rest of it. So apparently this person wants you to say something different than what you say when a person asks you a question, how are you, and you say that you're still learning. I don't know what they want you to say how you're really feeling instead of just saying you're still learning. Your response to that?
No, well, I'm still learning. That's how I'm feeling. I'm trying to find out, everything else about me. So I'm always in a learning mode. When I go to a doctor, what's the first thing I have for that doctor? Doctor, what is wrong with me? That's why I'm going to the doctor. I have a question. All right? So what are questions about? Learning. Anytime you ask a question, you're showing your ignorance. Think about that. If a person says, well, I think you're an ignorant person, you better believe I am, because I got 10 zillion questions that I don't have answers to. And that includes finding out how I am when I go to a doctor. Doctor, I came here to have you answer some questions for me, because I do not know what's going on. If I knew what was going on, I wouldn't need you. But I need somebody to tell me what's going on with me. So I'm always in a learning mood, more than anything. And when I look around on this planet, I see so is everybody else.
Okay. So anyway, Judah, I couldn't read the rest of your question because it got cut off. But again, if you would like to contact me, you have to do it through my Gmail, which is 7mrbobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and I will attempt to answer your questions. Basically, we try to reserve the time for Mr. Fuller and then for the callers to answer. By the way, you cannot call in right now. We're having some problems with the phone lines. I would like to think that it's the usual suspects, but you can do this by going to facebook.com/talktainment, and if I can get to your question, I will try to read it at least as much as I can before it's getting cut off, or again, my Gmail at numero 7mrbobby at gmail.com. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. And here are a few that I would like to share with you that you can, view. One of them is called Wiggins World. He deals with health issues. Very good man. Pastor O Speaks and The Kinsman. Now, all these shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and that's all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on programs, and then you will get the times of the programs that you can view for your listening pleasure. And this is one of them, by the way. The compensatory concept with Mr. Fuller is just off the hook. And by your likes coming across here, it's just fantastic. So thank you for that. All righty. Let's see here. Remember, you can go to facebook.com/talktainment, and you can see and hear us and leave a comment. Now, I'm told that I have to do that, or they want me to do that at least 6 or 7 times an hour. That's why you keep hearing that. It's not me. This is what they said do, so I do that. And 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Phone lines are not open. Okay, or we're having some problems with that, and I tend to think it's the usual suspects that are up to their tricks. Let's see here. Chris, Mr. Fuller, just wants to, if I can get it up on the screen, just says, just want to say a simple hello. He says, Mr. Bauer, just wanted to say hello. The system has had me so heads down at work, and I've not been able to take a breath and let the iron sharpen. But stay the course, Mr. Fuller, is what Mr. Miller is saying. Thank you, Chris, for your Gmails. Again, this show is not scripted except for the commercials. It is unrehearsed, so you get the foul-ups and everything with the show. Usually on my part, not Mr. Fuller's part. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get this one. Mr. Fuller, hope all is well. Let's see. They really don't like for me to read the emails verbatim, and it says too often I may have to repeat them to have Mr. Fuller address them. But I have to read them as is, because it's your words, and I really don't want to change your words. But I did ask that you condense your questions so that I don't have to do that. You just make them short so Mr. Fuller can understand and go ahead on. Greg Thomas wrote this, Mr. Fuller. He said this: I've been researching. Let me put it this way. Okay, let's see here. Talking about Dick Gregory. He's saying that he had some information that on Hillary that she was really sick and almost collapsed during the campaign several times. He said that Dick Gregory knew she was a goner, and that the elite have had a clone technology for decades. The real Hillary had been feeding on children for a long time. Speaking about clone technology, there's been the use of that, or holograms of people pretending to be somebody who they're not, or not real. Have you heard of this type of technology going on, Mr. Fuller?
I have heard of something about that, but not enough to speak on the subject at all in any kind of intelligent manner. I've just heard it mentioned. That's all. Yeah. That's all I know. Clone technology, I've heard the term. Clone, I've heard those terms.
Have you heard of holograms?
Clone many times, but the context, what it all means in detail, the effects of it, if there's any of it going on and whatnot, I don't know anything about that.
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Mario writes this. Is it possible non-whites can't stop the mistreatment from the whites because they don't have the power, not necessarily smarter?
Well, if I understand the question, yes, I've covered this before in this discussion this morning. Anyone who is doing something that you don't want done, you are opposed to what the person is doing. And the person is saying, you know what? I don't care if you don't like what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to do it. Okay, how about that? How about them apples? I'm going to continue to do it. And you are standing here watching me do it, and I'm going to continue to do it. And you are saying you don't like what I'm doing. But I'm saying I'm going to continue to do it. So, what does that mean? It means you don't know how to stop the person from doing what they're doing. The person who is doing it is smarter than you when it comes to doing what they want to do, and what they want to do is not what you want done. It means they can continue to do it, and you don't know how to stop them, particularly if they're doing it against you. They're doing it to your discomfort. Anyone who can mistreat you and you don't know how to stop the mistreatment, the person who is mistreating you is smarter than you are when it comes to mistreating you, and you are not smart enough to stop the mistreatment. That's universal law. That applies to everything and everybody. Not smart enough. People at one time, I understand, were much smaller in stature than lions, dinosaurs, all kinds of animals, dangerous animals on the planet. And these animals were bigger, stronger, etc., etc., etc. But I to a circus, and I have actually seen a person, a tiny person, with nothing but a whip, have a lion much stronger than the person. The lion can just by changing its mind, can jump on that person at any time.
Yes.
And completely tear that person apart. But I have seen lion after lion after lion. This was many years ago in a circus. Just, here's a little lady with a little whip that she's just, and those lions are doing what that lady wants done. Now, I immediately, even as a 10-year-old, came to the conclusion, wow, that lady is smarter than those lions, who probably don't want to jump through hoops today, but they're jumping through them.
They're jumping through them. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on WGRN 94.1. Podcasts are available. You can download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We got a beautiful question from Mr. Craven. And Jordan, you're coming up next, along with more of your Gmails. All that and more on TalkTameRadio.com. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I'm Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And you can view this show and hear the show by going to Facebook.com/TalkTainment, where you can hit the like button, and then your comments are coming up, and apparently you can see other people's comments, which I didn't know. They're going so fast I may not have a chance to read them all. But Muko Bachman, if I did it correctly, and I'm terrible on names today, thank you for listening. Emma Apelu, she said, Mr. Fuller, the analogy that you gave, she said it was excellent about the lions in the circus. Excellent. Brilliant, she wrote, jumping through the hoops. Because that's where that term come from. Got somebody jumping through hoops. So she was agreeing with you, and brother and Carter agreed with her. How about that? Wes Craven wrote this, Mr. Fuller. Should we confront a suspected white supremacist if we see it being practiced at our children's school? And I mean, they're jumping off of there. Should we?
Well, it depends on the term you want to use. I don't use the term confront. Using that term, I say question. See, everything gets solved by what? Questions and answers. Don't deviate from that. All problems, without exception, throughout the entire universe, throughout all eternity, will be solved through the process of questions and answers. So if you ask a question about what? About what is being done. That's all. And what are the questions? Why are you doing what you're doing? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? That can be asked of someone teaching someone. Like I'm talking now on the internet, on computers and whatnot. And I'm dealing in questions and answers. I was just asked a question right now. That's the process. Don't deviate from that process. See, but don't call it confrontation. You're not confronting anybody. You don't want to do that. That has a tinge of what you might call hostility. See, you're not about being hostile. Let the white supremacists be hostile. What you do is question what is being done. concentrate on what's being done, and then ask the logical question. All right? First of all, question one, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How, and then you can skip over how do you plan to do it if you want to, and then ask what do you expect the constructive result to be.
Yes, that's important.
Just ask the question. Yeah, see, that would apply in any situation. I've been doing this on this program all morning. All right, I've done it several times. Those 4 questions will fit anywhere. First of all, what, why, how, and what do you expect the constructive to be? Whatever the person is teaching your offspring, you walk into the classroom, you can say, what do you expect the constructive result to be? Give me an example of a constructive result. And just one question right after another. If you can't think of all the questions right at once, and chances are you won't, just write them down before you get there. That's another thing. Get in the practice of doing that. On the job and everything else, have your questions ready and written down, because you may forget. Or you may get the question all tangled up and whatnot and start confusing yourself. See, so always have a prepared list of questions. And someone may even, and I've said this before, this is a codified response. A person will say, well, you're asking too many questions. Now you have another question, because you don't deviate from questions. How many questions are too many?
Yes.
And do not help the person with the answer. That's another thing. When you ask a question, don't jump into the person's answer. Why? There's a scientific reason for why. Because later on they will say, I didn't say that, you did.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that
all right?
before.
So
yeah.
I know everyone, including myself, you have a tendency to jump in after you ask a question. When the person starts answering the question, you'll have a tendency to want to jump in if you don't like the answer that you're being given. No, let the person just keep talking, because if they are being devious, if they keep talking in answer to your question, they're going to fool around and trap themselves.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want to jump in. Just let them, and if they stop talking, just ask another question.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
And then another question, and then another question.
Right.
Because questions and answers will take everybody, including yourself. Not necessarily where everybody wants to be, but it will certainly take everybody where they need to be.
Yes.
Because it will get to the truth.
Okay. That little sound that you keep hearing, I'm going to say that that's the usual suspects trying to do what they do. But anyway, don't worry about that. We're working on that problem now. TalkTainMenRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTainMenRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby. What you hear in the background is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. live from Washington, D.C., and this is the compensatory concept heard exclusively on TalkTainMenRadio.com. You can also go to Facebook.com/TalkTainment, where you can view and hear and hear the program. You can also hit a like button there, and then which somebody just did. Matter of fact, quite a few. And you can see the questions that are being asked. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I appreciate that you're doing it. I'm not going to be able to get all of them, but I'm going to certainly try to get them all in. Okay, Mr. Fuller, this comes from Jordan, and this is we're going to talk about your book, but that's why I'm going to read this. It says this. He said, Mr. Fuller, have you looked into selling CDs of your programs? This might help fund your cause. And I also feel they will try to eventually wipe all your talks from the internet or distort the quality of them when you are gone. So I'm going to use this opportunity for you to answer that question and speak about your book.
Yes, that's why I wrote my book, the textbook for victims of white supremacy. Years ago, I was real desperate to get the books written, going back to the 1960s, really, and finally got it in the first form in 1984. And it's still flaws as far as I'm concerned in the way that I presented the material. even now in 2016, which I got out the revised edition that you can get by going to producejustice.com. But for many years, the basic form that I kind of got out in some type of form that made the most sense, I think, was the 1984 edition, which preceded the 2016 edition, which was just this past year.
Yes.
And but I do anticipate that, particularly on recordings and whatnot, all the talks that I've made in places where I've been, on college campuses and whatnot, where I participated in panels and whatnot, I do anticipate people distorting my message and the things that I was saying. And sometimes maybe, and I'm sure of this, in all the times I've been out here talking, I have said things in such a way that weren't very clear to people. And the white supremacists, you better believe, will be studying those things. Now, they're using the term, and in response to what the caller's question is, right now, they're using the term white supremacy more than I have ever heard it used. Everywhere you see on television or whatnot, the words white supremacy, I am very comfortable with that. But I'm also very uncomfortable with where I think the white supremacists, whom I think have now decided to start using the term themselves over and over again. I think they got plans for that term.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get through with their plans, it's not going to resemble anything close to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
Which leads me.
Now, how they're going to go about doing it, I do not know.
Okay.
They always work in mysterious ways. They are masters of deception. And you better believe, that's why I say go back to the textbook that you can get by going to producejustice.com and see exactly what it is that Neely Fuller said. I try to choose my words very carefully. Sometimes I don't. But sometimes I can be easily misunderstood. And that's my fault, because I should say things in a way that always clearly understood. But you had better believe the white supremacists will be distorting everything, not only that I'm saying, but everything that any black person says.
Right.
Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and whatnot, and turn it to their advantage.
Exactly.
Because here's what, you got to remember something about their strategy. And I've been saying this lately, and I don't want people to forget it. The white supremacists always take a position on all sides of every argument.
All sides.
So that they always wind up stronger when the so-called argument is settled, which the argument is not settled, because they'll see to it. But they will make it look like it's being settled.
Yeah.
So they know how to take all sides of every argument.
Mm-hmm.
They can they will study what Neely Fuller has written, and there are white people I know who have ordered my book. Some of them who are college professors, all right? And so when some student will stand up and say, well, I got Neely Fuller's book here, and he says this, that, and other, and such, and that professor, that white professor, most likely, if he is a racist, and chances are he might be, he will say, oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. Now I'm going to tell you what that really means.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you listen to that, and you're paying for it and whatnot, and you'll get a straight dose of something that makes no sense at all.
None.
Even though it will look like it makes sense.
Boy, that's hard.
They're good at that.
They're very good at that. Listen to this. Josiah Starr, and I'm going to actually combine these questions, but the question was, how do we outsmart the white supremacists? But I'm going to combine it with this one that Greenmark wrote, which you basically just answered. But anyway, the question is, now that suspected white supremacists are openly referencing social agitators, so-called neo-Nazis, alt-right, as the real white supremacists, according to the code, how should we respond to this? I believe they are misdirecting people's attention away from the white supremacists with suits to focus on powerless white supremacists with pitchforks. How should we respond to this psychological warfare?
Remember what I just said. The white supremacists are the masters of deception. And part of that deception is they know how to very skillfully take all sides of every argument, so that at the end of the argument, the only people who are confused and exhausted are the black people who are scattered all over the place and usually arguing with each other about this, that, and the other. And the white supremacists are still in business as usual. See, you have to really pay attention to how they will start out appearing to do one thing, but they wind up doing something else altogether.
Yes.
Different from what they started out to do.
Okay.
They are masters at that. And so you have to watch and listen very carefully. And they are masters at using words in such a way that they sound like, and I'm going to repeat this over and over again, they sound like they are being as logical as you can possibly be. I mean, you will walk away saying, boy, that was great the way he said that. That was great the way she said that. And boy, did she really sum it up. But when you think about it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, there will be great parts of what was said that will be absolutely logical and absolutely true. But there'll be 1 or 2 parts where they threw you off completely. Those parts will eventually take over all the other parts.
Okay.
They are masters at that trick. Watch for it.
Yes. Question from the Gmails. I don't know about that name, so I'll just say this. What did Mr. Fuller mean when he stated then the races have the, quote, right of access, end quote, to the sexual activities of all non-white people? And how is that implemented?
Oh, they just simply, because they have access to all of their prisoners. We were born in a prison system called the system of white supremacy. We're not told that. But everybody on this planet, every person on this planet is born in the system of white supremacy, both white people and non-white people. The system is already in place. The prison is already in place. Black people, non-white people, are born as convicts in that prison. And the white people are born as the masters of the prison. Now, they can reject that position, but that's a hard sell. Because the average white person will say, well, that means I got to give up privileges. If we're talking about having justice and that we're in a bogus government, world government, and that we are going to eliminate that government and have a system of justice, it means I'll have to make sacrifices in what? A lot of the fun that I get, a lot of the glory that I get, and certainly a lot of the material comfort that I get, because the system has already accomplished that for white people. But it hasn't done it for the non-white people. A system of justice could do it for everybody. Mm-hmm. But then I would lose my status.
Right.
Well, where would I get fun? Where would I get glory? I've gotten used to it now. See, that's what the average white person, and many of them say this, directly and indirectly. They got different ways of saying it, but that's really what it means.
It's really what it means, yes.
When they say, we got to take back our whatever. We got to take back our country. We got to take it back. Take it back from whom?
Yeah, from whom?
Yeah, I mean, who took it?
Yeah.
I mean, are you saying who took it? Well, you know who took it. Well, no. Answer the question, sir. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Who took it?
That is a good question.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean by asking questions.
Yeah.
Means, hey, take it back. Take it back from whom, sir? And always be polite. Don't shout. Don't argue. Don't scream. Don't yell. Just be polite. Be calm. Like a scientist. All science, if you notice how a scientist works in the laboratory, everything is nice and quiet. All right? The shouting and yelling and whatnot, that usually doesn't get you much mileage.
It usually doesn't.
All right.
Okay, let's see. J.R. Lawson wrote this. This is good. It said, greetings, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. The usual suspects I see are at it again, messing with the Talk to Me Radio app, which which can use an upgrade. Yeah, you're right. It can use an upgrade. Thinking they can interfere with the message that Mr. Fuller, but keep on recording, and I will listen without the shenanigans once the recordings are available. And anyway, he says this, to remind the listeners again to read the first 3 pages of sex in the code, so our discussions will be more constructive. That's for next week. Yeah, I did mention that. Next week we're going to home in on sex, and we are going to take our time in discussing, no matter how long it takes. I'm imagining that we are going to be on it for weeks because we really need to know it and then understand it and how it works. So I recommended that you not only have the book, but that you read the first 3 pages of it so you can get an idea of where we are going to go with this. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So make sure you do that. Mr. Fuller, we mentioned about the straw man a few weeks ago, and have you done any more? Have you done any research on that yourself?
I don't know anything about the straw man.
Oh, okay.
None.
Okay.
I don't even know what the straw man is.
Okay, that might be something you might want to look up because you do have one. Trust me.
Yes, I'll probably have to. I'm completely ignorant when it comes to the straw man.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here in our remaining moments here as I'm trying to get an email up. Again, thank you listeners for your calls or your statements that I can read over the internet here. Thank you for the Gmails that you are constantly doing. Really, you are help making the show so much better, so much smoother, along with the mistake that I'm constantly making, which I will do because the show is unrehearsed. Let's see. This comes from Dante. He says, greetings in Atlanta. He said, Mr. Fuller, he first would like to thank you and for the compensatory concept program, and it has helped me to understand the inhumane system of white supremacy and to be more constructive. Mr. Fuller often refers to lessons he's learned in movies, and I find recent movie release, The Dark Tower, rather interesting. Let's see. In using the movies, my take is that the ultimate battle between good and evil, and is the battle between non-whites and white supremacy, symbolized in the movie by the dark-skinned person by the player of Idris Elba and the white Matthew McConaughey. I appreciate your time and thanks. I guess that's a new movie out, Mr. Fuller. Have you seen that movie?
What's the name of the movie?
Wait a minute. It's called The Dark Tower.
No.
Dark Tower.
Haven't seen it. Haven't heard about it either.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hearing about it now.
You're hearing about it now.
So it's worth looking into. There's a lot of movies that I'd like to see that I just haven't had time to look at.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the last movie I went to see was just recently, and I hadn't been to a movie theater and I don't know when prior to this, but I went to see a movie just out of curiosity that I might learn some lessons. It was a war movie called Dunkirk. Okay, but I came away from that movie. The dramatization and the characters and all like that was fine, and the depiction of the events, because it's based on a true story, I understand. All that was fine. But the number of lessons, which is what I look for in any movie, the number of lessons and what I can do with the lessons. I didn't see very many lessons in that movie. So, but I do have about a list of about 52 movies that I will put on the in my producejustice.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was supposed to have done that some time ago, but I will get around to doing that. It's about 52 movies that I recommend that people look for, and I will also list the lessons that you should look for, not in the movies in detail, but just the general lessons that you should look for. Lessons about what is glory, what is loneliness, lessons about loneliness and what to do about it, failure, what to do about it. All kinds of lessons. Persistence, that's a big one. Being persistent. And you look at a certain movie and you'll say, now, the characters in this movie, how did they fail, or how were they successful because of a lack of persistence, or because they were persistent?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you keep on keeping on.
Is that what you look for when you often refer to the movie of Casablanca?
Oh, yes. I mean, a person who, everything coming at him, everybody who approached Rick Blaine in that movie, Casablanca, had some type of scheme that was going to be detrimental to Rick Blaine. Right almost from the opening scenes. Senior Ligotti, who came to him with some letters he had taken off of some dead Germans, presumably that he had killed, and he wanted Rick to hold the letters for him. All right? This was doing, just prior to World War II, or during World War II.
Yes.
And so Rick said, well, Senior Ligotti, I know that when you come to me for anything, it's usually some kind of bad news that you're going to hand me. So you're probably handing me something that's hot right now that you want to hold, that you want me to hold, and so that if anything goes down where I'm in trouble, it'll be me in trouble, not you.
Yes.
And then the next person that came to the door was someone who was trying to get into his club and whatnot, that he said made trouble whenever he came in there, so he had to bar them out.
Oh, okay.
And then everybody who approached him, had some type of story that he had to deal with.
Yes.
So he had his own weaknesses, too, so you got to be aware of. That's a lesson. Rick Blaine was always what? Drinking.
Wow.
Yeah, he had that weakness, trying to deal with his problem.
Okay.
All right?
Well,
drinking alcohol.
Well, when you hear the music, you know what's happening. Thank you, Kiana Brown, for your last statement. Couldn't read it, but thank you. Mr. Fuller, thank you. Thank you, caller.